Hey, Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club members, are you ready to take your crypto game to the next level? Well, buckle up because we've got something huge for you. As a member of the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, you're already part of the future of finance. But what if you could stack even more Bitcoin without waiting? That's right. We're talking about exclusive loans designed just for you. Through the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, you can apply for a fast, member-only loan. Use the cash to buy Bitcoin right now while the market's hot, and watch your stack grow as the revolution unfolds. It's simple. Call us, get approved, and turn that loan into Bitcoin. Pay it back on your terms while you HODL like a pro. Why wait for the moon when you can fuel the rocket yourself? This isn't just a loan, it's your ticket to owning more of the future. And because you're part of our tight-knit community, you get VIP access to rates and support outsiders can only dream of.
That you only have one thing to go to, and that's why I really do believe this is the next.
So, what are you waiting for? Grab your phone and call or text 941-413-6920 to apply now and start stacking SATs today. The Bitcoin revolution waits for no one, especially not you. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where members don't just HODL, we build. See you on the blockchain.
And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Bitcoin Ben Show, where you learn more about the Bitcoin and what is going on than any other show out there. Folks, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Monday. You know what that means? Michael Saylor purchased some more Bitcoin. $1.4 billion worth of Bitcoin this weekend. Folks, I think this guy has a problem. He is addicted to the Bitcoin. I don't blame him. I'm right there with him. Folks, I want you to really put your heads around. Oh, hang on one second. I got to change graphic here. Let's see where that. There we go. Ha ha. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe, especially if you're watching on our new BBTV YouTube channel. Because, folks, we're about to kick this into high gear. BBTV is about to be a 24-hour channel where you can hop on it at any time if you're a member of the club, mind you. And you can watch 24-hour crypto, politics, religion, history, which I will be hosting the history show myself. Right now I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. As you guys know, our club here in St. Louis will be opening soon as we can get through some local government hoops, as always. Soon as you have a great idea, leave it to government to try and screw it up. But, c'est la vie. We just keep going, folks, because unlike the Bitcoin blockchain, we're unstoppable. This is some of the biggest news out there that no one's really talking about because they're not watching for it. AI. I want you guys to understand, without the Bitcoin, AI, robotics, self-driving vehicles will not be economically possible. They have to rely on the Bitcoin and on blockchain, not just Bitcoin, Hypercycle, anybody? Look it up. Hypercycle. We're at the beginning of the adoption and the implementation of a global new system. That's why the thumbnail was of the Great Reset. This is the Great Reset, not the one they wanted, but the one they're going to get, because this is the Great Reset of the new system. Folks, have you seen the bond market? Not looking good. Have you seen unemployment go up? Not looking good. And a lot of the unemployment is government workers. Doge, anybody? Doge, yes. Now, because I want to play you a interview of a guy that understands exactly how the Bitcoin is going to implement over AI and other cryptos. I have a lot of people who ask, hey, Ben, is it over? Is the only thing that we should purchase, is it actually just only Bitcoin? If you're new, yes. If you have been in cryptos a while, join the club. We have classes on other cryptocurrencies that are upcoming. Folks, I'm privileged, not white privilege, just privilege, because and it's actually coming up on 8 years. No, I'm sorry. Not 8 years, or is it 9 years? 9 years of actually being in the crypto space. And what I have learned is every time that everyone says, this is as high as we're going to go. This is it. This is as high as the Bitcoin's going to get. That's when it goes higher. Folks, we haven't even implemented into the little AI that's out there yet. We have 6 to 7 years of massive upside. Massive. I'm talking billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars going into the Bitcoin. We just had an announcement today that the Trump kids are investing in a mining company. Folks, they're investing in a mining company, not for gold, not for silver, for Bitcoin. You think the Trump kids haven't heard their father talking? You don't suspect that maybe there's a reason Trump calls the Bitcoin the new oil. There's a reason, folks. There's a reason. Because it is the new oil. Because oil was the exchange unit of energy across the world. That's changing. We are going from a petrodollar to a crypto dollar, or shall we call it the bit dollar. Mark my words. The bit dollar is coming. And it isn't just going to be in our reserves, folks. We're going to offer American bonds with a Bitcoin kicker. This is absolutely rocking and rolling, folks. And when the God candle hits, it's going to hit hard, folks. It's going to hit hard, and people are going to be blown away with how quickly this rises. Remember, Trump is trying to let Florida, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Illinois, California, if they're smart enough, to get some Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin is going to recapitalize America. That's what he's doing, folks. As soon as you put the Bitcoin into the treasury and then you pump it, and it's going to pump hard. It is going to be amazing to watch this. I digress. Here's a clip or two from an interview about the Bitcoin and AI.
Right? Like there's all these different technologies, all these different sectors, all these different companies that they all claim to have a moat, but in a acceleration of tech innovation, those moats really get tested. But it seems like Bitcoin continues to stand out by itself. You've got some thoughts here. Explain.
Yeah, the phrase I've used is there's only 3 true moats that I know of. Gold is one that's working. Religion lasted 2,000 years, not going anywhere. And Bitcoin. And it kind of freaks people out to think about that, because then they go back and, well, what about, and they can name whatever company they want. Companies are ideas that have turned into something to be monetized. But in a world of exponential innovation and exponential change, if you believe in that, and you believe that we're now entering a world with artificial intelligence, that we now have the ability of creating almost instantaneous competition, well, then you want to find the things that can survive the test of time. I think even behind the scenes as to why gold is doing so well right now, gold is outside of the system. You and I have talked about where we are with the debt, what's going on with Trump's policies. The whole framework of the world is kind of changing. And at a minimum, people are like, well, is US debt, am I going to get paid? Are we going to restructure it? I just need to have more gold. I need to have more security. And the reason Bitcoin at this point has not reached the same level as gold as a completely outside the system is because it is a technology. It is an innovation. But in the end, if you believe, as I do, that the S&P 500, the lifespan of a company is down to about 15 years, with AI that will continue to decline, then what innovation is going to be here no matter what? And that's why Bitcoin, at the end of the day, when it surpasses the market cap of the Mag 7, I think it's reached that point of it has a moat just like gold. And I think that'll happen this year.
And that Bitcoin moat, how much of that is being furthered by governments embracing it, regulation, like these things that are not technology, right? Technology is very clear. My favorite stat is always if you take Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, all their computing power, and you put it together, it's less than 1% of the whole Bitcoin network. That's a technical moat. That's a network moat that is not going to be very easily overcome. But there does seem to be these like almost soft moats in a weird way, where like Bitcoin is entered into the mental or like the mind share, and people look at it as, okay, that's the one that gets the strategic Bitcoin reserve. These other assets don't, right? And so how do you think about that?
So if you go back to gold and religion, those are stories. Those are beliefs that people have run with and decided. And so I think it was Stan Druckenmiller that said, you can't argue the fact that Bitcoin is a brand. Well, a brand at this point means there's some story attached to it. So it's not just governments that are adopting it. It's not just corporations. It's not just individuals. But at the end of the day, when you really look and you're like, well, what's happening? The voters are voting. It's become something important in politics. I think it had a huge impact on the election this year because they embraced it, and Donald Trump was smart to embrace it. So part of this whole thing of a moat is actually human beings just accepting it as that. And the longer that something works, the longer that it outperforms. And I've said this before, I think the only reason that wealthier people in the markets and high net worth individuals haven't embraced Bitcoin as much as they would have, given the performance where everyone's a performance chaser, is because they haven't needed to. So to use that Michael Saylor line, you don't find Bitcoin, Bitcoin finds you. Well, eventually this year at the golf course, if Bitcoin's up 25% year to date and the Mag 7 are down 15 and continuing to struggle, I think at that point, you don't realize that there's nothing else that you can buy that can compete with that kind of return in technology, because I think AI is now becoming a disruptive force to all technology companies.
And when you look at that AI disruption that's occurring, where are we kind of in this cycle? Because I think that if you go back to end of last year, AI can do no wrong. It's the golden child. It's going to continue going up. It feels like there's been some softening. It started with the DeepSeek development out of China. There's a lot of people paying attention to China now, but you're also seeing it, with the CoreWeave IPO and a number of these different components. So maybe walk us through what's happening with this sentiment change that seems to be playing out over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, this is, I didn't think this would happen this fast. I thought this year would be about the Mag 7 underperforming, but there's a real sentiment change happening. And I think for investors that are now starting to watch this on a weekly basis, this is probably the most important thing that's starting to become clear. It started with DeepSeek. So what DeepSeek did is question, okay, China's not that far behind us. So instead of saying China, let's just say competition. We thought there was a race ahead and the Mag 7 had this huge advantage. They don't. So when you have a tiny little place with less than 1,000 employees, and I think DeepSeek has 160 to 200 employees, and they're able to do what they did, regardless of how they did it, and regardless of how much money they spent, they were able to do it. I think this shook up a lot of people's confidence, and that's when NVIDIA started to break down. Well, since then, you've had Satya Nadella say this race to AGI makes no sense to him. So Microsoft has again been pulling back on data center leases, but he's been very open about, I don't think racing towards this commoditized product makes sense. So now you have one of the hyperscalers saying, I'm kind of out. And they're spending, but he's clearly made a decision that he wants to make it more on the application side. Huawei has chips that are coming out that are competing with NVIDIA. Now you've got this question on whether they're there. You mentioned CoreWeave. I think we may have entered a period when you look at the S&P 500, which has done fine this year. It's only down a few percent. But the Mag 7 have been hit hard. I think the reality is those companies are fine. Their earnings are going to grow, but they're spending a lot of money. And the question is, 3 years from now, will the competition be so extreme that their valuation and all tech companies are there? So we're having this divergence where the hardware and the software are kind of merging. So AI embodiment is a theme that we talked about last week, but there's another angle here too, which is healthcare stocks are doing very well. We're going to be spending a lot of money on healthcare, and you can't replace the healthcare side with AI. So it's not a competition. It's actually an adoption story. Financials have been regulated heavily. They're going to be deregulated. They're going to benefit from the AI adoption side. They're doing well. And then when you add in energy and utilities for the power side, I think the interesting themes are about the late adopters, and the early adopters are under extreme pressure and competition from AI. So I think that's a theme that's starting to play out in front of our eyes.
The thing with the AI, so I recently tweeted a story where I had a friend, they went to the doctor. The doctor gave them a very, very concerning high-risk diagnosis. That high-risk diagnosis, they were obviously upset. They go home, they take the scans, they upload them into ChatGPT. ChatGPT ends up telling them something different, which there was still something there, but it was nowhere near as high risk. And that person then takes the scan, draws some arrows on the scan, uploads it into the doctor's portal, and basically was like, hey, what am I looking at here? Didn't say anything about AI, but just was like, out of curiosity, what is this? And basically the doctor called and was fairly embarrassed and was like, hey, I don't know what I was looking at. I think that A, B, and C is true now. And so there's two things that I think I took away from that situation. One was how many misdiagnoses, how many issues are there in the traditional system? But two was, wow, these systems are pretty good, right? And this was just like your kind of average use of ChatGPT. It wasn't a model that was trained specifically for medical use or anything like that. And so I posted this. And you know what I was most surprised by? How many doctors or medical professionals that, are on Twitter or on Instagram, whatever, reached out to me and said, and almost were bragging about how they're trying to incorporate AI into their practices because they realized that this technology is really powerful. And one doctor in particular was basically saying, we're trying to use it as a double check of everything that we're doing already, because we don't want the patient to go home and do it. So we'd rather just do it here and make sure that us and the AIs are aligned. And I was just like blown away as to how quickly these things are infiltrating into these systems. And that is just in healthcare. You go through all these different industries and it feels like, hey, we may have just as many kind of software employees within the next 2 or 3 years working at these companies than human employees.
So let's, I mean, this is a difficult comparison maybe for people to visualize, but I think there's the accuracy side, which obviously has already been shown that AI has driven this. But let's go towards the ATM versus bank teller side. So when you had to go to a bank teller and you had to wait online and you had to wait through 10 people and then go up there and do a transaction that ended up taking seconds to just go to a machine. I think eventually, 3 years from now, if you want to go get a complete body scan, MRI, which is now down to, in some places, $100, maybe there'll be an office where there's 50 of them. You go in, you have the work done, you leave immediately, and everything goes through an app that's to your phone. It speeds up how quickly you're getting your information. It helps you remain healthier because you do it once a year, you're getting a cancer scan, all of this stuff is coming, and it will make the medical side much more efficient. It'll make the user experience much more efficient, the accuracy much more efficient. And because it's a certainty that healthcare expenditures are going to continue to grow because of the demographics and because of the health of the country right now, I think you're going to see a lot of money put into this for this. So I think the experience that you're describing is one of the reasons why on the healthcare side, you want to invest in the sectors that are the most inefficient. You saw Musk say yesterday that he believes he can get $1 trillion out of spending out by May. Whether or not he can do.
When we see all this AI stuff, the humanoids you mentioned earlier, everyone is excited about it. It feels like that is the area with the largest total addressable market. It feels like that's the area where people understand, okay, it's going to go into the factories. I think the number is Amazon right now has 1.5 million human employees, 750,000 robotic employees. But what I think I'm most fascinated by is like, are robots going to be in your house, like babysitting your kids when you go to, dinner with your wife?
Not my kids, your kids.
Right. Right. Like I do think that is a very weird thing to think about, but it's not just that you're going to have robots in your house, right? There's Roombas and there's, Amazon Alexas and there's kind of like, very elementary, kind of examples of this stuff. But I'm talking about the replacement for a human in robotic form that is doing your laundry, washing your dishes, taking out all the things that you don't want to do that are lower level stuff than maybe the highest value
Ever wondered how
use of your
safe
time.
your online activities really are? How secure is your digital footprint? In the vast realm of the internet, privacy and security are paramount. Without adequate protection, your personal data might be at risk. There are solutions to these issues, and today we're going to talk about 2 of them. Introducing Liberty laptops from Calyx Solutions. These cutting-edge devices are meticulously designed to bolster online privacy, providing you the liberty to surf the internet incognito. The World Wide Web can be a wild frontier, but with Liberty laptops, your online privacy is always protected. We also present you crypto laptops, designed with cryptocurrency users in mind. Equipped to support a myriad of wallets and exchanges, these laptops are tailored for seamless cryptocurrency transactions. They offer enhanced security protocols to keep your digital assets safe. Crypto laptops ensures a secure and smooth cryptocurrency experience. It's time to take control of your online privacy and security. Venture over to Calyx Solutions and explore our Liberty laptops and crypto laptops. Don't forget, our affiliate program lets you earn $50 per sale. Visit calyxsolutions.io now or call 7028458276 for more information. Because your online safety is our priority.
And energy. But also, if you trust the robot, people will say, babysit my kid. Right. Like that feels, and to me, the reason I use that as the example is like, that feels like you broach the true spirit of this whole thing is like, is this a machine or is it actually a replacement for a human in a way that you trust?
So now we're going from the opposite. We're extrapolating too much in the present. And I think we're jumping to a level of technology that is probably further away than, like you said, where are we going to see them? Well, they're already happening in the factories. And the reason they need humanoids is because right now the Amazon ones, they're not able to grab something, pull it down and go through it. So they're different kinds of robots. They're more like Roomba robots that are very good. Japan, they're already in the hospitals in a meaningful way, and they need them there because they don't have. Japan is an interesting case study on this because they haven't had immigration. So if you think what's happened in this country, we need more nurses. We need more people to take care of the older demographic. In Japan, they've already started the process of realizing we can't replace these jobs, and we have an enormous amount of people. China is going to go through the same thing. So I think that's one of the reasons why in China and Japan and Asia in general, they're getting more comfortable with the robotics involved in their life. But I think the hospital is going to be a place that human interaction with a robot is probably going to be first. So you can go online and you can see them in the hospitals in Japan. They're not humanoids. They're not going through this in this way, but I'm sure that that'll be the first place. And then once you connect that human element, it'll probably happen here slower, partly because of I believe that we've got other needs that we want to use them for. And we're also at a place where from a wealth perspective, it's not going to replace jobs as much as whenever I hear people say, you're going to get rid of all jobs. I'm like, well, maybe the right thing that happens is people work less hours a week. Maybe what happens is the people that want to work from home and the robots are inside. There's different ways. It isn't a binary thing of you have a job or you don't have a job. So I think the human interaction is going to take time for people to get used to it. And remember when people were saying, I won't get in an Uber. And again, this was very early. Why would anyone get into a car that's owned by someone else? As opposed
don't get in a car with a stranger.
Exactly. So we had to break down all of that technology, and it took a while, probably longer than we remember, 7-8 years. And for a lot of people, your parents, maybe they didn't go in for 10 years. So it'll take time.
And when you look out right now, are there sectors in either Bitcoin, crypto, AI stocks that you think are under evaluated or discussed? Right. Like one of the things I always try to catch myself, because when you read the headlines, you pay attention to the current events, everyone's talking about a lot of the same stuff, but are there certain things you say, I think this is really interesting right now, no one's talking about it yet?
Yeah. So I've kind of called this the age of the market regime of buying boring stuff. Mm-hmm. For the last probably 4 years, aside from 2022, when COVID came and we juiced the system with a lot of money, gambling took off. And so that helped the altcoins. It helped Bitcoin. It helped the stocks like quantum stocks and Palantir and things you were willing to pay any multiple for. It was all momentum based. No kid wants to go out and buy Cigna. They don't want to go out and buy, Becton Dickinson. They don't want to go buy Exxon or Chevron. But those are all part of the economy. And so I think my overall theme, and I'm doing this for 22V research, which is trying to highlight to people that I think we might be at the age of the go-go software themes and just jumping into stuff. That's very good for Bitcoin. So the people that watch this for Bitcoin, you actually want a situation where people are making 15% a year in the stock market on boring stuff, as opposed to making 15% on the sexy stuff while the boring stuff's not moving. And the reason is because Bitcoin is not a boring thing. Mm-hmm. And that means that the competition for it, if you view it as it's a high-end thing, it's caviar of investments. And well, you want other caviar to not be working so that you only have one thing to go to. And that's why I really do believe this is the network effect year for Bitcoin, or for the crypto world. And so on the boring stuff, healthcare, energy, utilities, financials, I think they're all going to do well because they're going to benefit from AI as late adopters that are getting the agents and everything there. And they have good businesses with revenue. On the other side, I think the sexiness is going to go towards the crypto side. I think you have to believe in that, because if the economy is growing, we know that means liquidity is going in and Bitcoin will do well. But I think that's where by the I'm going to say by June. The warmth is across the country. They're on the golf course and people are starting to talk about, hey, how much Bitcoin do you actually own? Because the growth companies are just not going to work as well as they did.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes a lot of sense. Where can we send people to find the work that you're putting out?
Fuck me. This guy is literally one of the guys who has actually been accurate on AI and on Bitcoin. Extremely accurate. Someone asked, what is his name? Hang on one second. With Jordy Visser, Visser. He's an investor. He does a ton of research on all of this. I watched this last night, and there's so many other clips. Oh, all right. I have to show you this one. All right. Everyone knows who Caitlyn Long is. If you don't know who Caitlyn Long is, you are about to get an education in what is coming. Hang on one second. Let me flip this way. Watch this, folks.
You, I think, understand better than most the intersection of Bitcoin, stablecoins, the traditional banking system, and institutional investors. And when we first met, you were all over it. You said, look, this is a lot of my background. This is a lot of my personal interests. Like, this is an intersection point that's going to be very important. Start a company to go after this. And pretty much the Federal Reserve and banking system has done everything they possibly can to stop you.
Yes.
Tell us what happened.
Tried to kill us multiple times.
Okay, tell us what happened.
Well, the history is, so we're 7 years in now to creating a special purpose depository institution charter and a legal and regulatory regime in Wyoming. Wyoming was the first state, which is where I grew up. I was in New York for 30 years. But Wyoming was the first state to define digital assets as property and to create the commercial law regime for digital assets. And the rest of the country, about half of the states have subsequently followed. So Wyoming did some really important things for this in the United States. And was working with the Fed at the time. They were meeting every week. And the first group to apply for this special purpose depository institution charter was Kraken. I was trying to bring a whole bunch, this is a passion project for me. I was trying to bring a bunch of people to Wyoming to get this going. And then the Wyoming Division of Banking said there were 150 different groups who tried and none of them would have gotten through the Fed. So I thought, well, I was managing director on Wall Street for many years. I can kind of shepherd it through and try to solve the debanking problem that we knew this industry has gone through many times. And frankly, part of the difference between Coinbase and others, if you go back to 12 years ago, was the first debanking cycle in crypto. Coinbase survived because when they lost their Silicon Valley Bank account, they were able to get a cross-river account spot because of the Andreessen connection. Those sorts of things mattered to who won in this industry. And durable banking services is something that we still haven't solved, unfortunately. So long story short, it was friendly until FTX. And Sam I will speak out very, very loudly against any attempt to pardon that man. That man caused a lot of damage to a lot of innocent, good people in this industry.
I think you're now allowed to talk about some of the details, given that the political change that's occurred, not just from the administration, but I think just generally people are kind of going back to some common sense.
Yes.
What were they doing to you? And just so everyone understands, I'm an investor.
Yeah.
I was getting the updates, and every update I got, I was like, it can't get crazier than this. And it kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier.
The level of corruption in the United States is staggering. And I did not fully grasp it until I saw it. And it's not over yet, Anthony. I mean, you know more things than I can talk about publicly by nature of the fact that you're an investor, but the magnitude of skullduggery that is happening in Washington, D.C. is really incredible. And it's going to come out, if we look forward, it's going to come out, and you're already seeing it with the stablecoin bill, the scrum between the big banks who want to dominate it and the incumbent stablecoin issuers. And then there's Tether out there, not in the United States. And then just this incredible flow of money that has gone both from the banks and the crypto industry to people in DC, and they're all going to fight. And I don't know how it's going to come out. I really don't. We're going to get a stablecoin bill soon, though. That's clear.
So I think a lot of people will be like, hey, wait a second. The screen says Bitcoin Investor Week. Why are they talking about stablecoins? And they don't realize the importance of the stablecoins to the success that Bitcoin has already had, let alone the success that it will have. Talk a little bit about that relationship, and then we can talk about the bill itself.
Yeah. It is still on a daily basis of a clear majority of Bitcoin trading volume is settled in Tether. So Tether is a really important part of this ecosystem, like it or not. And I think most of us like it. Most of the regulators and the banks don't like it because it's 140 billion of payment outstanding that grew up outside of the regulated banking industry. And so that's why it matters. And of course, yesterday you saw the CEO of Bank of America say, we're going to get into stablecoins as soon as we get approved to get into stablecoins. By the way, Custodia applied for the patent on a tokenized digital dollar in 2020, and we were granted it in 2022. Now, the Fed, post-FTX, way overreacted clearly and told everybody to stay out of it. It is presumed unsafe and unsound if a bank issues a stablecoin or touches a stablecoin. And so that's why the banks have been off to the side, and we haven't been able to use our patent. But it sounds like we will be able to use the patent, and it's going to be really fun because we're not in any of those three groups I just described: the incumbent banks, the incumbent stablecoin issuers, and then Tether.
JP Morgan said they launched a JPM coin back in like 2018 or something. And I remember calling it the corporate central bank playbook, which was if they issued a coin that was backed 1-to-1 to dollars, just like the Fed had unpegged in the 70s, they in the future could potentially unpeg, and then they basically have a money printer machine, and what bank wouldn't want to have a money printer machine? What do you think these stable coins that these banks are going to end up issuing are going to look like? Will there be regulation that specifically says you have to keep it pegged to the dollar or other things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Biden administration was trying to kowtow to the banks, and so their proposal was that only insured depository institutions could issue stable coins. They were trying to kill the entire startup industry. And the crazy thing about that is, most of you probably understand, banks run what's called fractional reserve books. They keep about 8 cents. The large banks keep about 12 cents in cash for every dollar of demand deposits, and the smaller banks keep 8 cents in cash. So every single bank, every single day that runs that business model is susceptible to a bank run when you're keeping that little liquidity. And they're taking your deposits and turning around and making loans with them, and they're taking credit risk, and they're taking, in most cases, interest rate risks as well. That's the traditional business model. Very obvious how unstable that will be when you get crypto depositors that can be withdrawn in the span of minutes. And those bank runs would be faster than Silicon Valley Bank if we had traditional banks issuing stablecoins. So the good news is that that proposal didn't go anywhere. And the now proposal is, of course, having learned from what happened at Silicon Valley's Silvergate and Signature, is that the only stablecoin issuers must hold dollar for dollar liquid reserves against the stablecoin liabilities. And if an insured depository institution is going to do it, it has to be in a ring-fenced bankruptcy remote subsidiary. So it doesn't need FDIC insurance, which is really interesting because the Biden FDIC was frankly the problem. One of the many problems, but the Biden FDIC was clearly engaging in a lot of the debanking activities that we're learning about now, but was really anti innovation across the board. They didn't want banks innovating. They didn't want any new banks coming in. They didn't want any startups in the banking system. And they certainly didn't want anything crypto related in the banking system. So they just did everything they could to keep it out. And now we at least have pro-innovation people coming into those jobs.
The stablecoin regulation bill that is being floated, I have seen or heard multiple versions with different things in or out of it. One thing that has been consistent throughout almost every single version that I've been aware of is it seems like they have Tether in their crosshairs, that they are trying to essentially ring fence the United States in a way.
Yeah.
One, do you agree with that analysis? And then two, good, bad, do you think that gets approved? Talk through that.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin IRA. Are you a crypto investor with a retirement account, but don't have any crypto in your retirement account? Then listen up. This is for you.
Know what Tether's view is either. I saw an article recently that said they were looking at potentially doing something. They were waiting to see what happens in the United States. So we don't know what they want. And obviously, with Cantor Fitzgerald being the reserve manager for Tether and Howard Lutnick being in the administration, they've got a pretty powerful advocate at the table in the administration. But the scrum that's happening, Senator Lummis is from Wyoming, my home state. The scrum that's happening with her and that digital asset subcommittee on the Senate running that bill is really interesting because the amount of attempted regulatory capture, I'm being nice about it, is pretty high. So what happens with Tether in that? I don't know. This is one of the risk factors in this industry. I think the right thing for the United States to do is to embrace it and to recognize that that is a significant owner of U.S. Treasuries. They have distribution all around the world, and it didn't grow up within the traditional regulated banking industry, which is why the banks are still trying to kill it, trying to use regulatory capture to kill it. And they succeeded in keeping it outside of the regulated perimeter, but they didn't succeed in killing it because obviously Cantor Fitzgerald was willing to stand up and defend it. There's another angle to this, which is that going to go mainstream? Because all the banks want to get into Bitcoin trading. And right now, all the banks can do, the big New York banks can do, is ETFs and futures. They can't hold the actual underlying. And as a result of that, you see some pretty big arbitrage spreads. And some of the trading firms in this space have been able to capitalize on that because the banks can't touch the underlying. So there's not as much liquidity. When the banks can touch the underlying, which I believe is coming soon, probably in the next 6 to 9 months, the banks are going to have to be able to settle with digital dollars. You're not going to be able to prime broker these assets without being able to fast settle the dollar leg of your transactions. You're not going to be waiting to settle until after the close of business because you might have actually gone bust in the interim with how fast digital assets move, right? So the risk officers, if they're doing their job well, will say, we've got to ring fence the crypto piece. We're not going to commingle it with other prime brokerage assets. We're not going to allow collateral substitution with other prime brokerage assets, and we're going to be running 15-minute settlement cycles. Well, you can't settle a US dollar in 15 minutes outside of this technology right now. Fed Now is there, but of course it's for relatively small dollar payments. We're talking about large prime brokerage type payments. They're not going to do that with FedWire. It's not programmable. You can't do it with ACH or Fed Now. What are you going to do it with? You're going to do it with a digital dollar. So I think there's going to be a fascinating land grab on the digital dollar. And one question is Tether going to come on shore? Are they going to be able to expand that into institutional Wall Street? Or are we going to have a JPM coin, a B of A coin, a Citi coin, or a Abbott, which is the name of Custodius coin? Stay tuned, because I'm working on something, and we'll see. We'll see where that ends up going. Like I said, we've got the patent on this. There are a number of banks who figured that out and are interested in making sure that they're part of the early wave. And I'm not talking about the big New York banks. I'm talking about community banks who want to be able to offer this to their customers for foreign exchange. And especially banks that bank Bitcoin miners. The Bitcoin miners don't want to have to deal with Fedwire. They would rather settle their US dollar transactions in a Tether or a USDC or some sort of US dollar stablecoin, because the settlement cycles match the cycle of their liabilities.
I think you once told me that you're pretty early in Bitcoin, and when you were at Morgan Stanley, there was like a chat where there were some Bitcoiners that were talking.
Yes.
And you guys kind of were like quiet about it because you're in the big bank. What's this Bitcoin thing? One of the promises then was that Bitcoin was going to end up being a peer-to-peer electronic cash, and that includes buying goods and services with Bitcoin. It does feel like stablecoins have taken a lot of the transaction volume that people thought was going to go to Bitcoin. What is your current view about the relationship between Bitcoin and dollars and how people are using those two different assets?
I think they're symbiotic. I'm glad you mentioned that, and it prompted a thought. I was listening to Preston Pish's interview with Paolo Ordoino from Tether, talking about an announcement that I got really excited about, which is that they're now working to put a US dollar stablecoin on the Lightning Network. For those Bitcoiners, we are all excited about the Lightning Network. It has underperformed expectations in the last couple of years. And some of that was as a result of what happened with the Taproot upgrade that started to clog the chain. Transaction fees went up. It was harder to open and close Lightning channels. That has those market forces forced some very interesting new technologies to be implemented. But here's the punchline, and here's why I'm bringing it up. Paolo's vision, I think, is the right one, which is that the Lightning Network, if you're going to scale to billions of, not just billions of people in the world, but machine-to-machine payments as well, the problem with blockchains is that it's a shared state system. You need to anchor in, but you're never going to be able to get the efficiencies regardless, even if you're working on a faster chain like Solana, for example. You'll never be able to get the efficiencies of getting shared state fast enough to prevent a double spend. And for machine-to-machine payments that are going to be making payments in milliseconds. And you're talking about at scale, in billions and billions, potentially in a minute. How do you get there? And the solution, which is so interesting that he was going down this path, because I took the last 6 weeks and did a very deep dive into the Bitcoin L2s and making decisions about if Custodia issues our stablecoin because the world's changing, what is the protocol we would use now? Clearly ERC20, we've already gone through the process with that with our regulators, and we had also proposed a liquid token, but liquid is a sidechain of Bitcoin, as many of you know. That was 5 years ago. What has happened in the interim is a lot, and what I concluded is the Lightning Network is where the scaling is going to take place. That's where the vast majority of US dollar payment volume will end up. And to have Tether making a big investment in the scaling of US dollar stablecoins on the Lightning Network is that is the announcement of the year to me, because they're making the engineering investment in that. That is what's going to have symbiotic effects back to, I think, TradFi. And candidly, I think that will end up with a better system than what we have now through the big traditional banks. It will start offshore, like so many things do in the Tether universe. It'll start offshore, and then I think it'll come onshore. But what will have happened between now and, say, 2 years from now, when they bring that level of scale and the machine-to-machine payments through the Lightning Network? What will have happened with Citi Coin and JPM Coin and Custodius, coin? What will have happened? We don't know. That's the that's the fun thing to watch. And a lot of money is going to be made by somebody along the way.
This industry is fascinating because it is so bottoms up. People bought Bitcoin first. Companies like Tether, even USDC, they're creating these things before the big banks, before the nation states. They're not going to sit around forever. The banks now are talking about this. Do you think the U.S. will go ahead and, one, try to launch a central bank digital currency? And then two, do you think that the nation state will actually establish the strategic Bitcoin reserve? And like, are they all in now that Trump is in office and he's been so kind of pro Bitcoin, pro crypto?
Well, good news is Scott Bessent is pro stablecoin. So I don't think the Trump administration is going to stand in the way of the stablecoin bill that's coming from Congress. So to me, that's a given. It's just a question of how many months we have to wait and exactly what that looks like. Does everybody have to get a bank charter? Does everybody have to get some sort of non-bank charter? Do the non-banks get root access to the Fed's payment system, which is the master account that we're fighting for? Right now, you have to be a bank to get that. So those are the questions we don't know, but we know definitively that the stablecoin bill is coming. So to answer your question, I don't think that Trump himself has said he won't support a CBDC. Scott Bessent is supportive of private sector versions. So most likely, the Trump administration is going to allow the private sector to innovate with one caveat, which is that the Fed is standing in the way. We can come back and talk about that in a minute, but we know where the Trump administration is going to be. And then in terms of strategic Bitcoin reserve, that was always going to be the Treasury Department, not the Fed. So the Fed can't stand in the way of that. But it depends on what you mean by that. I think if the strategic Bitcoin reserve is defined as the Bitcoins that the U.S. government has confiscated in law enforcement activities will no longer be sold, and that pile of Bitcoins we're going to call that the strategic Bitcoin reserve, there's a 100% chance that happens. But getting the U.S. government to go out and buy Bitcoin on the open market, I think it's probably a 40% chance. It's not likely. It's just a step too far. And I'm not entirely comfortable with all the discussion that's coming out of D.C. of a sovereign wealth fund. This country is so far in debt, and this idea.
Hey, Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club members, are you ready to take your crypto game to the next level? Well, buckle up because we've got something huge for you. As a member of the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, you're already part of the future of finance. But what if you could stack even more Bitcoin without waiting? That's right. We're talking about exclusive loans designed just for you. Through the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, you can apply for a fast, member-only loan. Use the cash to buy Bitcoin right now, while the market's hot, and watch your stack grow as the revolution unfolds. It's simple. Call us, get approved, and turn that loan into Bitcoin. Pay it back on your terms while you HODL like a pro. Why wait for the moon when you can fuel the rocket yourself? This isn't just a loan, it's your ticket to owning more of the future. And because you're part of our tight-knit community, you get VIP access to rates and support outsiders can only dream of. So, what are you waiting for? Grab your phone and call or text 941-413-6920 to apply now and start stacking saties today. The Bitcoin revolution waits for no one, especially not you. Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, where members don't just HODL, we build. See you on the blockchain.
Howard Lutnick was in the Oval Office with Trump saying, hey, if we're buying, as the U.S. government, vaccines from a healthcare company, we ought to get warrants in the healthcare company. And I was sitting there thinking, that's not a free market capitalist approach to the world. So I don't know how serious they are about all that. That all makes me think strategic Bitcoin reserve is priority number 3. In fact, actually, even Senator Lummis said it. Stablecoins number 1, market structure number 2, strategic Bitcoin reserve number 3. I'm not sure they'll get to number 3.
Trump has been very curious about acquiring land from other countries. And in some of these places, there's a lot of natural resources. There's also a lot of energy. The U.S. government historically has stayed out of mining. But there are other countries. We know Russia is mining. We know that the UAE is mining and elsewhere.
Bhutan and yeah.
Yeah. Is it just a thing that the United States, like maybe that's the way that they should actually enter, is like forget the buying, but you just kind of dollar cost average into Bitcoin by monetizing energy assets, whether within the domestic borders today or, potentially acquiring new areas that are energy rich?
Yeah, I've never heard Trump talk about mining as an opportunity. He's a big energy guy. Of course, Wyoming is a big energy state. And so he's more interested in green lighting some of the activities like the sort of portable nuclear plants and things like that are being talked about in Wyoming, for example, as we speak. So I think that's probably more likely what he will do is encourage private sector development of those resources and stand back and not kill it with red tape and regulation. It's interesting. I'm not sure how much Trump himself is a true believer in this. He sees a lot of smart people around him who are, and he wants to seemingly get a lot of the red tape out of their way, but it's not something that he seems philosophically committed to.
So this is something I've talked to friends about a lot. I actually don't think it matters whether he understands Bitcoin or not, in the sense that what you really need is you need him to say to the people he trusts who do understand it, I will support you. Is that how you kind of view it?
Exactly. I mean, there was the scrum for Treasury Secretary between Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent, and I looked at that and said, we're going to win either way, right? Because they're both Bitcoiners, which is great. And so having both of them in the cabinet in high positions, Howard, of course, being Commerce Secretary, Scott being Treasury Secretary, they're in positions to really make some of these things work. And that's, to your point, he doesn't need to really understand it if the people around him are saying, here's what we need to do. And it is, I think, something that helps dollar hegemony. We can debate whether that's a goal that should be out there, but it is a goal that the Trump administration is pursuing. And it would not make sense to force a liquidation of Tether because they haven't met a regulatory requirement and have them forced to liquidate 140 billion of treasuries if the goal is to support the US dollar. So I can't imagine that that's going to come to that, but in that scrum with the big banks trying to elbow everybody else out, and then even the incumbent stablecoin is trying to elbow Tether out. Again, I don't know how that all ends up.
I can't wait to see what the stablecoin bill is.
Guys and gals, this is the point of this whole show. We are still so early in the adoption of cryptos in general, and also in the number one coin, which is Bitcoin. If you're in this for the short term, you're missing the point. You have to look to the future, right? Everything is about the future. Now, the future hasn't happened. It will happen, and we will actually create the system that makes the future what it will be. There's a term in history called manifest destiny. That's where you create your own future. And folks, the reason I do this show, the only reason I do this show, is to get as many of the little people involved in cryptos as possible. And I don't just mean, go buy Bitcoin. No, that's a small view of it. This is going to be the largest industry in the world ever. Folks, places like my clubs, places like our resorts in El Salvador, these are going to be huge in the future, because as more and more companies and people and retirement programs and governments adopt this decentralized structure of cryptos, the amount of opportunities is going to be unbelievable. It's why I tell everyone, get involved with your club. Join our club and get involved with the community. Oh, hang on. Hang on one second. Let me see if it's using. Thank you very much. Haha, yes, it switched over to the wrong microphone. Sorry about that. These clubs, folks, I'm telling you now, we are the heart of each area that we're in. Sarasota, Nashville, Texas, Massachusetts, soon to be Vegas, St. Louis, also soon to be. Every one of these clubs are going to be a hub in reaching out to all of the companies, all of the charities, all of the individuals in the area. When this takes off, and it's that's what people don't understand. There are people that are complaining about $83,000 friggin' Bitcoin. $83,000. $83,000. Not that long ago, people wondered if it would hit 20,000. Use some perspective. Realize this is not a I'm gonna get rich quick. No. You're gonna get wealthy soon. And the word soon is relative. When I say soon, I mean a year, 2 years, 3 years. And I mean wealthy in purchasing power, not in US dollars. Never value your fucking cryptos in US dollar. That is so ass backwards, because the US dollar loses purchasing power every day. Bitcoin gains purchasing power every year. This is why I do this show. And I've had several people already tell me this. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for getting on your show and always being positive. Because why wouldn't I be, folks? We are in the fastest growing industry in the world. We have a president, we have a government who is pro-us, pro-Americans, pro-humans. And this economy, this crypto economy, you cannot be negative about it. If you are negative, you're just a negative person. This is absolutely amazing. We live at a time when we can send hundreds of thousands of dollars over a decentralized network that no one can track you if you do it right. Folks, I'm telling you now, you're absolutely right, Nash. You can't grow if you're negative. You gotta be positive, folks. Remember, you're a bad motherfucker. Now go out and do some bad motherfucker shit. That's what we do. We win. Wake up, win, go to sleep, rinse, repeat. Like a wise man once said, life is like a garden. You just gotta dig it. Quoting Joe Dirt. Folks, I hope watching this show makes you feel good, because doing this show makes me feel good. And everyone, have a wonderful and great day. And remember, okay, hang on one second. How does MSTR buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin price goes lower? How is this happening? What's really going on? Just curious what causes this. Okay. MicroStrategies is not going on Coinbase Pro and actually buying Bitcoin. They go to over-the-counters. Over-the-counters do not count in market price. That's why they're called over-the-counters. This, and you should be appreciative. Like, what if I could grab you and I could go back 7 years in time, right? And I could get you some of the Bitcoin for $4,000. Would you buy it? Absolutely. Fast forward a few years. Whenever it's $500,000, $1 million each, and I'm hosting a show just like I am right now, and someone's like, it dropped under $1 million. What are we going to do? I'm going to say, just like I said now, if I could take you back in time and I would sell you, some Bitcoin for $80,000 each. Would you buy it? You'd say, damn right I would. This is the difference. I live, eat, and breathe cryptos. I live, eat, and breathe the Bitcoin. I eat, breathe, and shit blockchain. I'm educated on what I'm invested in. That's the key. Know why you bought it and hodl. It's why I have done shows for so many years. It's why whenever it was $800 each, and I was telling people it's going to 100,000, and I got laughed at. No, 100,000, you're an idiot. Okay. Because I'm telling you guys right now, it's going to 1 million, and it's a lot quicker. It's going there a lot quicker than people think. Folks, hodl. Hodl, hodl, hodl. And don't forget, while the price is low, what should you do? You should call us right now. 941-413-6920 and get a loan and get you some Bitcoin. No KYC, by the way, for club members. No KYC. Love you guys. Everyone have a great day. And I will not be doing a show tomorrow because I'm driving back to Florida. So someone will be doing a show. I think I'm going to talk Heidi into doing a show tomorrow. Let's see if she's up for it. We'll see. Everyone, have a great day. I love you guys. See you Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Ever wondered how safe your online activities really are? How secure is your digital footprint? In the vast realm of the internet, privacy and security are paramount. Without adequate protection, your personal data might be at risk. There are solutions to these issues, and today we're going to talk about two of them. Introducing Liberty laptops from Calyx Solutions. These cutting-edge devices are meticulously designed to bolster online privacy, providing you the liberty to surf the internet incognito. The World Wide Web can be a wild frontier, but with Liberty laptops, your online privacy is always protected. We also present you crypto laptops, designed with cryptocurrency users in mind. Equipped to support a myriad of wallets and exchanges, these laptops are tailored for seamless cryptocurrency transactions. They offer enhanced security protocols to keep your digital assets safe. Crypto laptops ensures a secure and smooth cryptocurrency experience. It's time to take control of your online privacy and security. Venture over to Calyx Solutions and explore our Liberty laptops and crypto laptops. Don't forget, our affiliate program lets you earn $50 per sale. Visit calyxsolutions.io now or call 7028458276 for more information, because your online safety is our priority.